Foretravel Motorcoach has been known as one of the best kept secrets in the luxury RV industry. And today I want to introduce you to some of the key people and tell the story of the history of Foretravel. And right now we're with Lyle, Vice President of Foretravel, and your father and grandfather founded the company.
They did. They actually founded the company in 1967, built the first 50 in their backyard before purchasing the property where we're currently located today.
Foretravel's come a long way since 1967, but going back before Foretravel started, what was the reasoning for your father and grandfather to start Foretravel?
Sure. It was a family concept to build one for the family to use as they like to travel and camp out across the country. And so they built one. This is actually a photograph of number one that they called the Blue Goose, from the metal color, obviously, but it was built on a little chassis with a gasoline motor. I think it was a 318. A lot of residential products obviously had to be used because the RV industry really wasn't around. And then above here is a copy of my grandfather's 2013 induction into the Hall of Fame in Elkhart. That was quite the honor to go up and accept for him.
Yeah, your grandfather's really left a legacy. He would be really proud today.
Everywhere they stopped after they completed the first one and were using it, they just got bombarded by people because nobody had seen anything like it before. And they said there might be something to this. So they actually came back with several orders if they would build them, built them, sold them, and my grandfather retired from where he was currently working at NIPCO as an engineer and started Foretravel.
How old was your father at that point?
He was 17, 18. He was a senior in high school. It was actually part of his senior project.
You shared with us you started working at Foretravel when you were 17 years old.
I did.
So going back to those first 50 coaches, did those start out as gas motorhomes or?
Yes, at that point in time they were gas.
And when did you start to transition into diesel motorhomes?
So that would have been in the mid 80s with the introduction of us building our own chassis. So we started that process in 1986 as a monocoque construction where the roof and the sidewalls and the fiberglass all tied in as a supporting structure with the chassis.
And that was long before slide rooms, and the industry has evolved quite a bit since then. But what are your first memories of Foretravel?
Oh goodness, riding my bike in the parking lot, picking up screws, thinking I was rich.
And you mentioned you started when you were 17 years old. What was your first position here at Foretravel?
Like anybody should be, you start at the bottom. I started mowing the grass and cleaning the bathrooms. From there, just worked in all the different departments at different points in time between summer classes or summer breaks. Continued to learn, build cabinets, welding, electrical, and working with the sales team and the marketing team, which gave me a very good base for when we were factory selling.
Talking about your grandfather a little bit, I know he's in the RV Hall of Fame, an extremely respected figure in the RV industry. How was that relationship between your grandfather and father working together, and when did the transition start to change into the next generation? What was the timeline of all that?
Sure. It was always, family businesses can be a challenge from time to time. So I remember some of those struggles as a child growing up, and but not really understanding what was going on. So I'm sure it was a challenge from time to time. My father sold the company in 2005 to Mr. Reed and his partners. Thanks to them, we're still here today.
Today we're hanging out with Lyle Reed, principal partner of Foretravel Motorcoach. How long have you been involved with Foretravel Motorcoach?
I got involved with Foretravel in 2005, so it's going on my 20th anniversary.
And what is your current position and current role here at Foretravel?
I'm the president of Foretravel. Foretravel was my introduction to the motorhome industry. I'd been in the railroad business for over 30 years, and I retired in 1996. And as a result of that, I stayed on the sideline for about 10 years. Then my wife and I, we purchased a custom-built Foretravel, and we used it to tour the country. We had a driver that did that for us, and that's how I became acquainted with Foretravel, and the family was wanting to exit the business, and so that's how I got involved.
And what made you choose back at that time Foretravel over other RVs in the industry?
Well, Foretravel, we live in Texas, and Foretravel is a Texas company, and basically they had a customization program which lets you design your own motor coach And that's what we needed, since we were going to have a driver and an attendant taking us places. We wanted it set up for that purpose, and then normally we would get off at the destination and they would stay with the coach.
When you acquired Foretravel back in 2005, did you have a vision? Did you see it becoming what it's become today?
I didn't know that much about it in 2005, but I just sensed with its history and what was happening in the RV industry that there was an opportunity here for maybe some fresh eyes in the management realm to do different things. And you can see from what happened back in the early models to what we now have as the current Foretravels, and a lot has changed.
What's the current ownership makeup of Foretravel, or do you have any partners?
Well, yes, I became involved with Foretravel with a principal partner, Dane Miller, who was the founder of Biomet, a medical company in Warsaw, Indiana. And he unfortunately passed away in 2015, and his interests have been placed in a trust that his wife, Mary Louise, takes care of. And then we had a couple of other investors at the time we got involved. I got involved in Foretravel. And one of them, he was the president here for a number of years, Greg Amos, and he's still a shareholder. The other one is no longer a shareholder. So it's basically the three of us, and then there were some people that had been given shares by CM4, and so they're still shareholders, but we have the three of us have the predominant shareholder interest.
So Foretravel's not owned by any corporations, it's a small, privately owned business.
We're one of the last remaining private companies in this industry. There's been a lot of consolidations with dealerships and suppliers and manufacturers.
Well, I can tell you the RV industry appreciates what you're doing, so please, when those corporations are banging on your door with a big checkbook, we appreciate you holding out as long as you can. One of the last ones standing.
You know, being a family-owned business, probably would have been rather difficult to make it through the 08, 09, 2010 timeframe.
Yes, sir. A lot of RV companies did not survive through that area. Like, you know, Country Coach was probably the most similar to this level of RV. They unfortunately didn't make it. But was your grandfather still involved in the company in 2005 when it sold?
No, his health didn't allow him to. He had some health issues that he struggled with later in life. So towards the end, he was not involved as much as he had been in previous years.
When the company sold, I'm sure that was a big change for you, from working to your father to now working for someone else, and here you are almost 20 years later still with Foretravel. What made you stay with the company even though your father was no longer the owner?
Sure. You know, growing up in the company and the industry, you know, it gets in your blood. You live it, you love it, and you know, it's not something I wanted to walk away from. You know, it is part of my heritage, if you will. And you know, I left for approximately a year and a half, but then Foretravel asked me to come back. So I came back full-time in 2008. I was still involved in the RV industry, just not directly related with Foretravel. Got over 27 years of experience in the RV industry at age 46.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Very few people can say that. And you've been at, you know, the shows. You've had your boots on the ground for a long time in the RV industry. If any of you have had the opportunity to see the Foretravel display at the Tampa Super Show, they've got one of the best displays in the entire show, and you're there bell to bell almost every day, meeting customers and really keeping your ear to the ground. So I have a lot of respect for you for that. Now, going into that, you know, 2009, 2010 era, what was your position here at Foretravel when you came back?
So I was in sales. We brought factory sales back as we had been out through some different dealers at that point in time prior. So Foretravel wanted to bring it back and do more of the custom route. I was in sales and I worked with the customers on the custom orders routinely, which with my history had a very good understanding of what was possible, what wasn't possible. During that time with Mr. Reed and, you know, his partners, we actually came out with a brand new chassis, new molds, and brand new model. So 2011 we came out with a brand new model as everybody else was, you know, still struggling a little bit. So we kind of hit the ground running when the market did come back.
Yeah, so that was probably the most difficult time in the RV industry that I'm aware of. So I have a lot of respect for Foretravel surviving that and then pushing the industry through that. Recently, Foretravel has gone from their proprietary chassis to the Spartan K4 chassis with the Realm and the Presidential, which have really made a splash in the industry. One of the most sought after motor coaches out there. What caused Foretravel to partner with Spartan and go in that direction?
You know, we built our chassis from beginning in 1986 all the way to 2017. 2018, we did partner with Spartan to build our chassis as the laws for manufacturers were changing. A lot of tests were coming into play in order to be able to produce your own chassis. So with our limited production, we worked with Spartan to develop a chassis for us, which we ended up doing. But when we partnered with our partners Blue Compass, they wanted it to be on the K4 chassis, as they wanted air as well as leveling jacks as an option, where our chassis was only air suspension, air leveling. And so for that reason, we went to the K4 and worked with Spartan and made some changes specific for us, you know, to give us that flat floor throughout the whole coach, certain suspension components with the Rayco and the performance choice that we've talked about.
Yes, sir, and we talked a little bit about the difference between the Spartan K3 and K4 chassis in another video, but what are some of the main differences in the Spartan K4 chassis that take it to another level?
Right. Well, and I would say, you know, the Spartan K4, in compared to any other production chassis, is a tubular construction versus a C-channel, which gives it a lot more integrity. And then we also double wall, you know, we double up on that tubular construction in critical areas. It also has a bridge work underneath, you know, it's not just two C-channels floating at the top. So when that chassis is delivered to us, it is tabletop flat, ready to build on. And so we don't have to do any shimming or, you know, strapping down prior to bolting the floor on.
And we spent the day going through your factory. I'm extremely impressed with how everything, you know, from the sidewalls to the roof, to how everything is put together. Very impressive. That video is definitely worth checking out. We'll leave that in the description below. You mentioned Blue Compass getting involved recently. I know Foretravel had direct sales at one point. What was that transition? What caused that transition to start working with Blue Compass?
Motorhome Specialist out of Alvarado, Texas, approached us in the 2014 timeframe to develop the Realm project specifically for them. In addition to doing the custom order coaches that we did with the IH-45, we built the Realm specifically for Motorhome Specialist. Motorhome Specialist was acquired by RV retailers that now is Blue Compass. After Motorhome Specialist was acquired, RV Retailer's third acquisition was RV1 up and down the East Coast. So at that point in time, they approached us about building exclusive product for them. So at that point in time, we elected to go more production units for them and step back from the customization.
Well, that makes sense. I can see working on a production level, you can keep costs down much more than the customization. So I can respect having to make that decision. And you and your team have been putting together just an incredible product that is very sought after in the industry. Moving forward into the future, what are the next steps for Foretravel and what direction do you see the company going?
You know, there's always innovation coming into play, and so we'll see what the future brings there. Always looking for better products, quality. You know, it's not about how much stuff you can put in, but how many things that will improve the quality of the coach and not cause problems for the customer is what I'm interested in. I just don't want to throw bells and whistles on it just to throw bells and whistles.
What is it about Foretravel that separates you from other RV companies out there?
There are a lot of good companies in the industry. Foretravel's legendary attention to detail is number one. Their service to their owners before and after the sale, and our real commitment to ride and handling, which makes a Foretravel.
Are there core principles or what drives Foretravel?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the attention to detail, basically wanting to build the best motorhome that's possible to be built when you're dealing with thousands of other parts and suppliers and so forth, but I think one of the things that our owners would say was that if something does develop, we stick with them until it's taken care of. And I think they appreciate that because we're a smaller company that we can pay attention to all of our owners.
Probably close to 1,000 units since you acquired Foretravel in '05?
Yes, that would be pretty reasonable because we've built different models, and some are smaller, but now we just build the larger units.
And talking about smaller models, I heard a rumor that you own one of the smaller Foretravels today?
Well, we have what we call the company car, the company Foretravel. It's a 37-foot model that I stay in when I'm here in Nacogdoches.
And is there anything about Foretravel that you think that the world should know?
Well, some say we're the best kept secret, which is, I do not consider that to be an asset because we want to be known. It's hard to mass produce quality. If you want to say, what are you trying to do? And that thing we're trying to do is build one of the best motor homes available, and particularly at our price point. To do that, it just takes a lot of careful attention to details, closely working with suppliers and listening to our customers. That's kind of what we have to stay in touch with. That's why I stay in our campground when I come to Nacogdoches. Basically, I get to interact with customers on the campground when they're here for service or taking delivery of factory delivery of a new motorhome.
Yes, sir. We've been here for the last couple days and we've seen you out there mingling with the customers. You're definitely in tune with your client base. Now, what is the current vision of Foretravel? What's next with Foretravel?
Well, there's always something next, and sometimes the market determines what's next. Basically, we've got some improvements we want to make. It's continuous improvements, basically, is what the founder CM4 instilled in the culture here at Foretravel. And there's a lot of technology that's now coming into play, and keeping up with that is quite a challenge. Also making it work the way it's intended to work. Essentially, we're going to continue to build what we think is the finest ride and handling motor coach. We're not of the mind and we're not of the size really to pursue the EV side of what's going on in the economy. That will come later, if at all.
Anything else that you want to share with the viewers out on YouTube that you think is good information about Foretravel for folks to know?
I think that a comment that I use periodically is that if you are looking for a park model that you don't drive much, there are a lot of them out there that will serve that purpose very well. But if you want to drive it and see the country, I don't think there's anything better than a Foretravel for ride and handling, and working with suppliers to make that possible is really one of our commitments.
I'm really excited to see the future of Foretravel and can't thank you enough for sharing that history with us and the factory tour. And we did do a full tour on this coach as well. We'll leave that video in the description below as well. But if someone wants to purchase a new Foretravel, what is the best steps for them to take?
Sure. So the easiest thing that you can do is go to foretravel.com, and on there's a tab that says dealer inventory. And if you click on that, it will then take you to Foretravel specific inventory that they have on the ground. And it'll have their contact information and everything right there.
Very cool. And also, if you have a chance to visit the Tampa Super Show and meet Lyle in person, definitely worth checking that out. Lyle, I know you're an extremely busy man, so I appreciate your time, sir.
Well, I certainly want to thank you and your team for coming in and spending the time. Enjoyed it and looking forward to it and hearing everybody's response.
Yes, so I'm looking forward to hearing the comments and feedback from the viewers. Lyle, I really appreciate your time today.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And the viewers on YouTube appreciate everything you're doing, sir.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hope you're all having a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you for your time. Safe travels.